Welcome to the podcast. Today we're diving into the complex landscape of immigration enforcement and its impact in 2025 under President Trump's second term.
Absolutely, it's a really charged topic. What stands out from the current enforcement strategy?
One of the most striking aspects is the sheer scale. ICE has deported nearly 200,000 individuals since January 2025, and projections suggest numbers could exceed 300,000 by the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah. Wow, that's a staggering pace, especially considering the original goal was 3,000 arrests per day, right?
Exactly. Though in practice, actual daily arrest numbers have been much lower, more like 1,500 on average. And what's interesting is how this enforcement isn't just about numbers, it's about the methods and the broader impacts on communities.
Right. It's not just a statistic. I mean, we're talking about something that affects families on a very real level.
Yep, absolutely. The enforcement strategy doesn't solely target Latin American communities, which has been a historical trend. In 2025, Asian immigrant families have notably felt the pressure too.
That's a crucial point. These policies have broadened their reach. It almost feels like a ripple effect through different communities.
It is. And there's a lot of context here, starting with Trump's 2024 campaign promises of creating the largest deportation operation in American history.
So this isn't a brand new approach then. It charts back to his earlier term when enforcement was already aggressive.
Exactly. During Trump's first term, deportations averaged around 375,000 per year over his time in office, but legal and logistical limitations kept that in check. Now, with unprecedented funding, up to $75 billion over 4 years, the enforcement apparatus has really been ramped up.
That funding really changes the game, doesn't it? It's like you have more pieces on the chessboard.
Yes, exactly. With the funding, ICE has been able to beef up detention facilities, hire thousands of additional officers, and invest in new technologies like that $113 million Palantir AI platform to track overstays and expedite deportations.
Right. And these new tactics seem to be a mix of traditional raids combined with high-tech surveillance, right?
Yes, absolutely. They've been blending old school raids, sort of like pre dawn sweeps in cities like Los Angeles and Chicago, with modern tech. They even use military personnel in operations, which certainly ramps up the intensity.
Speaking of which, how is the military being involved exactly?
Well, in April 2025, for instance, over 10,000 troops were redirected to support border operations and interior enforcement. There are even plans to use facilities like Guantanamo Bay to detain the increasing numbers of individuals.
Mm-hmm. That much troop involvement is pretty unprecedented. It definitely blurs the distinction between domestic law enforcement and military capabilities.
Right, and that blurring has significant consequences. Economically and socially, there have been wide ranging impacts. For example, industries like agriculture and construction are facing labor shortages as communities live in constant fear.
That makes sense. The effects reach far beyond just the individuals directly detained. It sounds like local economies are really taking a hit.
Definitely. In many immigrant heavy regions, businesses are scrambling. Take Los Angeles. Raids have led to families hiding and workers avoiding public spaces, which in turn disrupts local commerce and social life.
And then there's the tear in communities, families being separated, child anxiety, and even protests erupting in response.
Exactly. There's been a notable rise in family separations, and mental health issues are on the rise too. Schools and community events are getting disrupted. It's like the enforcement here is not only about law, but also about altering the fabric of daily life.
Yeah. It's interesting because while some argue these enforcement measures enhance public safety by targeting criminals, many detainees are non criminals. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's one of the larger critiques of these policies. By July 2025, data showed that fewer than half of the arrests involved convicted criminals. There has been a doubling in the number of non criminal detentions, which deeply questions the balance between security and humanitarian concerns.
I see. But there's a counter argument that the strict measures have, in some circles, bolstered a sense of public safety. Still, the ethical and social costs are really concerning.
Absolutely, and that's where things get contentious. Proponents point to over 352,000 arrests and more than 324,000 removals in the first 200 days as evidence of improved safety. Yet, critics argue that a broad brush approach, using policies like the revocation of TPS, risks innocent lives and causes widespread economic harm.
Right. It sounds like there's a sharp divide between the political narratives, doesn't it? On one side, there's talk of safety and law enforcement, and on the other, of loss of human dignity and economic disruption.
Exactly. And another fascinating dimension is how these operations are affecting different ethnic groups. While Latin American communities have been hit hard, Asian immigrant families are also increasingly fearful. In fact, ICE arrests of Asians reportedly tripled in early June compared to the previous year.
That's really revealing. It complicates the narrative of immigration enforcement as targeting just one group.
Yes, and it seems the policy rhetoric, like demonizing aspects of Chinese immigrants, has contributed to general anti Asian sentiment, in addition to the traditional focus on Latin groups.
Mm-hmm. And what about the legal tools being used? I've heard mentions of the 1798 Alien Enemies Act and the preparation for detentions without trial.
Right. The administration has expanded the use of such legal instruments, revoking protections like TPS, and even using the Alien Enemies Act to detain individuals without trial. These measures not only bolster the numbers, but they also set up precedents that can affect civil liberties long term.
That's a pretty heavy handed legal context. It's like the legal frameworks are being pushed to support these mass deportations.
Exactly. It's a major pivot from previous policies, and it shows an aggressive posture aimed at rapid removals. And let me add that there's also an operational twist. ICE's integration of data sharing across agencies has helped track overstays far more quickly than before.
Mm-hmm. Now, I understand that some measures are supported by some quarters as necessary. But don't you think such expansive powers risk overreach?
I agree, and that's where the debate really intensifies. Critics question whether these enforcement measures unnecessarily broaden the scope of detentions, thereby ensnaring many who pose little to no risk.
Yeah. I would respectfully challenge that point a bit. While public safety is paramount, one could argue that the broad measures risk undermining community trust and, in the long run, could even hamper cooperation with law enforcement in critical situations.
Absolutely, and that concern is echoed by many advocacy groups and local communities. The social and economic repercussions, like labor shortages, business closures, and even increased public health crises, paint a picture of long term damage that might outweigh the short term safety gains.
It's a tough balance. When you deploy such an all encompassing strategy, you inevitably sacrifice elements of community solidarity.
Right, it's like trying to tighten the screws so much that eventually everything starts cracking. The ongoing protests from cities as disparate as Spokane, Los Angeles, and Boston really underscore the societal tension.
Hmm. And those protests, along with the legal challenges, like cases reaching the Supreme Court, signal that this isn't something that will fade quietly.
Absolutely. The narrative isn't just about numbers or operational tactics, it's also about setting a precedent for future administrations. The policies of 2025 may well reshape the American immigration framework for generations.
So, in a way, we're looking at both a crisis in enforcement and in public debate, each pulling at the fabric of American society in its own way.
That's right. And while the record numbers and tech enhancements might suggest efficiency on one side, the human, legal, and economic costs force us to think deeply about what kind of society we want to build moving forward.
Indeed,